The plot thickens with the most recent GTA update as Grove Street Games has come out swinging at Rockstar, blaming them for the mess of the definitive edition of the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy. While I thought the Lana Del Rey and Lizzo Twitter beef was going to be the title match before tomorrow's Tyson and Paul fight, it looks like there's another bout on the cards. And I've spent the last few days digging deeper into the mystery of the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition's sudden resurrection. And it seems there's a lot more than meets the eye than a lighting update. So, put on your seatbelts, tune the radio to Laszlo, and follow the damn train, CJ, as we take a look into the circumstances surrounding this current update.
Oh shit, here we go again.
Normally, this is a part of the video where I'd ask you to like and subscribe, but instead I wanted to talk about Movember. What's It Like is throwing its support behind my good friend Archie, who is leading the charge for Movember, which aims to take on mental health issues, suicide, prostate cancer, and testicular cancer. If you would like to know more or want to donate to his campaign, click on the card that's just popped up on your video. Now, let's get back to it. For those out of the loop, the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition received an unexpected update on November 12th, exactly 3 years and 1 day after its disastrous launch that seemingly fixed an overwhelming number of bugs, glitches, and textures, making fans rejoice. Aside from the major lighting update, another huge change was removing Grove Street Games' splash logo from the startup screens, as well as their smaller logo on the copyright pages. The main credits remained unchanged, but Grove Street Games was largely removed from front and center of gamers' eyes, with many of them commenting that this was great news. On the surface, many gamers, myself included, assumed that Grove Street Games were fired and Rockstar had taken the trilogy back after a perceived service agreement lasting this 3 years. But a tweet from Grove Street Games founder has flipped this on its head, causing me to dig a little bit deeper into the timeline. CEO Thomas Williamson fired back at Rockstar in a not so thinly veiled tweet, implying that Rockstar Games is responsible for holding back this patch, and implying that Grove Street Games is responsible for developing the impressive list of fixes. The tweet stated, "Speaking entirely hypothetical, it's a dick move to remove primary developers from credits in an update, especially when an update includes hundreds of fixes that were provided by those developers that stayed out of players' hands for years." Now, while on the surface this tweet was met with little sympathy, garnering a lot of criticism from avid fans, I decided to try and verify these claims. Now, the first rule of journalism is to seek truth and report it, but as a lot of what has happened has occurred behind closed doors and NDAs, we can only really look at the timeline of events to hypothesize what is true. With stories like this, there are always three sides: Rockstar's side, Grove Street side, and somewhere in between, we have the truth.
I'm gonna go see what I can dig up. I'll be watching you, Tommy.
Let's take a look at the timeline. Pre-launch, War Drum Studios is revealed to be the developer of the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition, and is renamed Grove Street Games. While many assume this is in correlation to San Andreas, the studio was actually established in the Grove Street neighborhood in Florida, where they had been located for years. While it could be likely that this was also a clever double play on words, it's safe to say that Grove Street Games will not be renamed after the events of the launch. I found the original press release regarding the rename that came out in August 2020, over a year before the release of the GTA Trilogy, and about halfway through its development cycle. They explained the rebrand by stating, "After 12 years in the game development industry, War Drum Studios will officially change its name to Grove Street Games. The choice to update our name was inspired by our devotion to our community, as we are located in the Grove Street neighborhood in Gainesville, Florida." On October 13, 2021, just 2 months before the launch of the Definitive Edition, Rockstar removes the classic versions of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas in order to push sales and pre-orders for the Definitive Edition, drawing the ire of fans, YouTubers, and outlets alike. The dramas didn't stop there, with Rockstar producer Rich Rosado admitting to using AI upscaling in a 2021 pre-launch interview with The Gamer, estimating that over 100,000 assets had been upscaled by AI, but quickly bounced back by stating a lot of those assets were then painted over by hand. A glitch in the PlayStation Store 24 hours prior to the global launch would be the first sign of the series' distress, as thousands of Australian gamers were granted access a day early, leaking that music tracks had been cut, the game had been censored, and things weren't all they seemed to be. The Grand Theft Auto Trilogy launched to mixed reception from critics and detest from fans. A lot of the AI upscaling had ruined characters' personalities and models, and it was beyond playability on the Switch. This was a perceived insult to the games that came before it. Rockstar quickly issued apologies on social media, claiming that they were rapidly working to deploy fixes, but higher up the food chain, it was a different story. Strauss Zelnick, CEO of Take-Two, blamed the launch on a glitch that has now been resolved. In a CNBC interview, he was quoted saying, "With regards to the GTA Trilogy, that was actually not a new title. That was a remaster of pre-existing titles. We did have a glitch in the beginning, and that glitch has been resolved, and the title has done just great for the company." Now, this statement further infuriated the fanbase, who felt like the issues were being downplayed, and rightly so. Following this, Rockstar restored the original versions of the GTA Trilogy to the Rockstar shop, and in an attempt at damage control, offered them for free to PC gamers who purchased the Definitive Edition. Post-launch, Grove Street Games was in the background, and they started deploying patches and fixes, chipping away at the long list of issues that gave fans hope. But the patches started becoming fewer and farther between, and were only slowly improving the trilogy, with the last major update being on the 18th of October 2022, seemingly leaving the Definitive Edition dead in the water. But this is where things get interesting. I decided to connect with Tom Williamson on LinkedIn, and while I haven't heard from him yet due to the time differences, I did find a post that alluded to Grove Street Games ending support on the GTA Trilogy in early 2023 as they moved to fix and relaunch the now incredible Switch port of Ark Survival Evolved, a full-time project requiring the entire team. On surface value, this looked like they had moved on from the Definitive Edition, and it was assumed that Rockstar took back control. But Williamson, in his heat of the moment tweet, outright says that Grove Street Games handed this patch to Rockstar, who intentionally withheld it from players, meaning that this patch has been sitting there for almost 2 years. To re-quote the part of his tweet criticizing Rockstar for removing them from the opening credits, he says, "Especially when an update includes hundreds of fixes that were provided by those developers that stayed out of the players' hands for years." Did Rockstar Games purposely sink the GTA Trilogy Definitive Edition? And if so, why? The timeline of events clearly show that Grove Street Games had either been taken off or taken themselves off the Definitive Edition in April 2023. And if what Williamson claims is true, then that means that the update was likely handed over well before their involvement ended, likely early 2023. Almost 2 years ago. Now, this is as far as my digging has got me, and I've reached out to both Rockstar and Williamson directly, but given how small What's It Like is, I doubt I'll hear back from either of them. So this investigation really just gets us asking more questions. Mainly, if the patch was ready for development 2 years ago, why has it only happened a couple of days back? And judging by the reaction from Grove Street Games, they were just as out of the loop as us gamers were when it came to the GTA Trilogy. My two theories boil down to this. The patch was initially developed by Grove Street Games and then reworked by Rockstar. But even then, the patch would have had a development time as long as the actual definitive edition. Or perhaps Rockstar is anticipating the release of GTA 6 and doesn't want to have the trilogy tarnishing that legacy and impacting sales. They've had a few rough years following the definitive edition's release, and while Grove Street Games bore the brunt of it, Rockstar also released a bare-bone ports of Red Dead Redemption at full retail, further outraging gamers who felt disrespected as consumers. Rockstar have certainly lost a lot of goodwill with their fans, and patching this fan worship series in their eyes might just be the olive branch that they can easily extend to secure future sales. Thanks for watching.
One thing you gotta realize about this town, you gotta pack some heat.
Thanks for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. The best way that you can support What's It Like is by liking and subscribing. And for the month of November, I'm donating all my channel earnings to my good friend Archie's Movember campaign. So if you've just watched this video, you're already doing your part.